The effort then of the rally rider out of the saddle. Scully once again beginning to fan the flames. He's pouring on the coals. Oh, look at this good crash. And the field absolutely drilling it round this circuit. Oh, it was so close.
Hello and welcome to a healthy and very welcome dose of glorious Cumbrian sunshine. Now the Tour Series has had pretty much everything so far, from the rain of the opening rounds through to the cobbled climb of Durham, and here in Barrow-in-Furness, where the biggest enemy of the riders tonight will be this wind. Although I suspect if you ask the locals, they'll tell you it's nothing to write home about. Light rain began to fall on the race just as it got underway in Durham last time out, but thankfully the deluge stayed away. And the predictable attritional race began instantly to pare down the numbers of riders in contention. Eventually a strong group of favourites with plenty of representation from the two leading teams loosed the chains and asserted control of the race, as behind them everything was splintering into bits and pieces.
Oh, look at this, another crash!
Riders succumbing to mechanicals, overcooking the famous crash corner, or simply losing their legs on that relentlessly repeated climb.
Riders beginning to close down on Lawless.
Meanwhile, as Madison Genesis Tom Stewart consolidated his position in the sprints, the big names were still all looking at each other. Ian Bibby for NFTO and Christian House of JLT Condor amongst the riders who fancied their chances. But in the end, it was neither of them who made the decisive move, but Richard Hanley, the JLT Condor man, stretching out unassailably lap after lap until he eventually crossed the line in glorious isolation. A long way back then, Christian House won the sprint for second place from Team Wiggins' Chris Lawless.
Game over for Lawless.
But it was one pro cycling, and in particular a fine rearguard action from George Harper, who edged out Madison Genesis for the team win. Those two then in first and second place, and another very creditable third place from this series' surprise package, Pedal Heaven. At the top of the table, the gap between first and second narrows to just 2 points now. Rally dropped to fifth, leapfrogged by NFTO, but they're still some 8 points adrift of third place, still occupied by Pedal Heaven. And I'm delighted to say that we are joined by Team Rally GAC's Andy Horden, who has featured, if not in Durham, then in 2 other rounds so far, and this is your third tonight in Barrow-in-Furness.
Yep.
Not the best night for your team last night, but that's not really what you're all about anymore, Team Rally, is it, in what remains of the Tour Series?
No, we had a bit of bad luck last night, and we were a bit down on the points anyway, so it's all about the individual win for us now, and possibly the fastest lap competition. And Morgan's not too far away in the points, but it did drop a few last night, so hopefully we'll try and get him back up there as well.
Yeah, good stuff. Now, students of the English language will notice that if they're very good at detecting regional accents, you sound like you're almost on home territory here, at least sort of northwestish Cumbria. Is this home for you?
Yeah, this is home for me. I'm 30 minutes across the water in Millham, like just 25 miles around the estuary. My wife's actually from Barrow, so yeah, this is home. So yeah.
And again, you're not entirely like a full-time pro, so you have another job as well, and that's not without its interest as well. Where do you work?
I work at Sellafield, which is like 50 miles up the coast.
Right.
So I'm electrical engineer up there full time, Monday to Friday. Yeah.
Right. Tell me, does the wind always blow like this?
It does, yeah. It's always windy here.
I thought as much. That's going to add a little bit of complication to what is, though, on paper at least, a relatively straightforward and very fast circuit. Let's have a look at it in a bit more detail. Where Durham's roller coasters felt trouble at every turn, this track in Barrow is built primarily for speed. That said, the gentle drop away from the start is into a block headwind, and it's not until the riders turn through a sweeping 90-degree bend for the final time that they'll feel the tailwind shooting them down, surely the fastest finishing straight of them all. Positioning on that final bend, especially if the bunch is still together, will be all important in the final running. Barrow-in-Furness is situated at the tip of the Furness Peninsula in the southwest corner of Cumbria, a mere 20 minutes from the Lake District National Park. Today the town is at the cutting edge of some of the world's most advanced engineering projects, with BAE Systems' modern nuclear submarine building programme spearheading a new wave of investment in Barrow. And beyond the perimeters of the town itself, it's a great place to cycle. The coast-to-coast long-distance cycle route from Walney to Weir starts at Sandy Gap. The Cumbrian Cycleway also traverses the Furness Peninsula. Bringing the Tour Series to Barrow for a second consecutive year, what does it mean to the area?
Well, I think it's an absolute dream, really. The sportsmen who come and perform, they really like coming to Barrow, and we've got some fantastic supporters here in this town. We love the day, everyone's enjoying the day, and of course the economics of it, it brings in, well, last year it brought in over £100,000 to the local economy.
In terms of cycling, it's fantastic opportunities around here all round, isn't there, I guess?
Absolutely. Look at the scenery. You've got the beaches, you've got the mountains, you've got some country lanes, you've got wider roads. It's an absolutely fantastic area.
Okay, that's the theory of how this Barrow circuit is going to race. What's the practicalities like, and what are the dangers, what are the pitfalls, and how straightforward is it actually?
I think when you look at the map, it looks pretty straightforward because it's just like a loop with a chicane in it. But actually, there's bits where the barriers nip, and going through that chicane there, you're going to be affected by the wind. I think there was a crash there last year actually, and obviously it's a really fast, like left-right. And then there's a few different surfaces as well, like there's a bit of a curb behind the town hall that you're going to come up onto these brick sets and then back off again. Yeah. So yeah, it's not as straightforward as it looks.
Yeah, the finish straight has a howling tailwind at the moment. I mean, that's going to be rapid, isn't it?
Yeah.
But do you think that is the wind going to break the race up, or maybe even hold it together more?
I don't know really, because it just depends on the composition of the group when you get around that back section there, because obviously that's where it's going to be windiest, and if it is splitting as you're going round there, then it is going to break it up. Yeah. But if it stays together, then riders will be sheltering and trying to stay out of the wind.
Yeah. Now listen, you're a rider who likes a flat circuit and a sprint, so assuming for a second that Andy Horton isn't going to win this series, and for your sake I hope you do this round, who else do you fancy? I mean, looking to the other teams and some of perhaps the bigger names?
I think it definitely suits like Ed Clancy, probably like Chris Opie, riders like that, powerful riders who can put out a good sprint at the end.
Are you surprised we haven't seen quite as much from Steele von Hoff as he might have promised before the series got underway?
I was talking to him before the race on Tuesday, and he said he'd been a little bit poorly, so you factor in things like that, then maybe not.
Yeah. Well, absolutely. Well, good luck out there. Now, Steele von Hoff is just one of a number of big names on this year's Tour Series, and there are rumours that in the last couple of rounds we might even see Sir Bradley Wiggins ride. But in his continuing absence for Team Wiggins at the moment, there is only one rider who has already appeared on the honours list, and that is Ed Clancy, MBE. Well, Ed, ever since the Tour Series came into life 7 years ago, you've been pretty much ever present, haven't you? I think you probably rode the first one in a team of Halfords.
I remember it well, yeah. My chain snapped after about 10-15 minutes, and I remember pushing the bike home, and I rode pretty much all of them. I think I missed a few more in 2012 in the Olympic year, but apart from that, I've pretty much been at every one.
You have a kind of love-hate relationship with the road, it's fair to say, isn't it? I know this is only criterium racing in inverted commas, but where do you stand with regard to road racing?
Some road races I love, most of them I hate, and with the crits it's a little bit more balanced in it's more suited to a track rider, put it that way.
It's clear that your objective now for the next 18 months is Rio, isn't it? That's what it's all about.
It is, yeah. Now we're this close, especially with Brad getting back in the team. Andy Tennant's really moved on as well. We've got a real good chance of sort of bagging another gold medal, so understandably that's number one priority, and from here on in it just gets more and more of a focus, and that's what it's all about. And we use events like this to try and hone our speed and strength, and it's worked well in the past, so we're hoping it'll work well in the future.
And of course Team Wiggins has been called into existence. Nice kit, not so nice perhaps their lead position in the table, but then that's not necessarily what they're about, is it? It's about backing up the track work.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the Team Wiggins is solely here really to offer a good environment for Andy Tennant, Stephen Burks, the other team pursuiters that are going to be there for Rio.
It's been put together with all the team pursuiters, barring Ed Clancy, and then we're taking on some young riders as development riders, and that's for them, those young riders, to look up, to aspire to that level.
And there's plenty of whispers that the big man himself might turn up for possibly the last two races as well. How would he go? How would Brad Wiggins go in the Tour Series, do you reckon?
I've heard Bath's a pretty tough circuit. I mean, a guy like Brad, if he turns up and he's motivated, he's got the potential to sort of, ride off into the distance.
He's ridden crits. He grew up, riding Crystal Palace Eastway, so not dissimilar to these circuits really. So yes, if he wanted to do it, he'll do it.
Tonight's circuit looks eminently like an Ed Clancy circuit.
I hope so. I remember coming here last year and I did a few sighting laps in warm-up and I thought, yeah, great, this would be a good circuit for me. It's a little bit Canary Wharf-like, and I was just useless in the race. I was just, from start to finish, I don't know if I had a bad day or the circuit's just harder than it looks, but for sure it's going to be a better circuit than Durham. So yeah, if I'm there at the finish, then we'll have a go.
There you go. So the great Ed Clancy there on a course that looks tailor-made for him. He won in Aberystwyth and then his team went on to win again in Motherwell and in Durham. So will JLT Condor make it 4 wins out of 4? Let's find out in the company of Hugh Porter and Brian Smith.
Thanks very much indeed, Ned. Well, the riders have got 5 rounds under the wheels as they roll away from the start here in Barrow. This is the Tour Series' second visit to this Cumbrian town, and the Pan-Flat circuit with these beautiful conditions, 1.1 kilometres a loop and clockwise, should provide us with a very fast and furious race.
And 24 hours ago we had one of the hardest of the Tour Series rounds in Durham. Here in Barrow we've got one of the fastest, as you say, Hugh, a very Pan-Flat course. And as we start in Duke Street, we go right into Market Street, then we hit the most technical part, a right, left, then right again onto Hindpool Road. And we go down to the bottom of Hindpool Road, another right into Abbey Road, and a sweeping right hand into the finish, which will produce a very, very fast course.
Glorious sunny conditions as well, so the riders will be able to throw their bikes into the bends without having any fears at all. Well, Madison Genesis still leading One Pro Cycling, but it's by a scant 2-point margin. And round this circuit tonight, it's going to be a chess on wheels scenario as each team tries to mark out the other. Now then, Brian, 2 rounds, as you've said, within 24 hours. How have the directors been able to approach this, looking at team selections?
Well, they've known this right from the start of the Tour Series, and they'll prepare for this. This is the first time in the history that we've seen this happen within 24 hours. This is a totally different course. It was a very hectic and hard individual course in Durham, but today it'll be a lot faster, and I'm expecting the group to stay mostly together than the split up version we had in Durham.
Well, actually, we might be treated to a bunch sprint then by that statement you've made, and we haven't had one so far.
Well, last year in the Barrow and Furness, we actually had a small group go to the finish. That could happen again, but it is tipped to be one of the fastest races, and it is tipped to have a bunch finish at the end.
Well, looking at last year, it was super sprinter Graham Briggs of Rafa Conda JLT that clinched the victory ahead of Tom Scully, with young Matthew Gibson in 3rd place ahead of Richard Hepworth and Adam Blythe. But it's all to play for tonight, and of course we are looking at the red and white jersey there of the team leader, and that's Madison Genesis. Now then, is that going to be the case tonight? Chris Opie just coming into shot. Now he's a man that's got a very fast finish.
He could be one of the riders that can figure for One Pro Cycling. Just see them in the grey and the light blue to their sleeves coming towards the front now. They'll be marked with the riders in the orange helmet. They are the series leaders. Wherever One Pro Cycling go, Madison will go. So it lends itself to a very good individual performance from one of the other teams.
Well, this is the shot that we've got of Ed Clancy's bike, and I can tell you that Ed Clancy, with his super speed, remember he's a team pursuit specialist that leads off the quartet from the gate when they ride the 4,000 metres against the clock. He packs a terrific punch at the end, and he of course is the record holder for the most individual victories. So this course could favour Clancy.
You can just see through the most technical part of this circuit, Ed Clancy was actually feathering the brakes every so often, just touching them and dabbing them to make sure he had the right line and the right speed around his corners.
Of course, with a circuit as short as this, Brian, and there's 1 or 2 little kinks along the way, feathering the brakes is going to come into play. Now we've got another camera on Alex Payton's bike. Alex Payton is riding for Pedal Heaven, and I know we've put this remark down already in previous commentaries, but it needs saying again. Pedal Heaven have really been one of the revelations of the series.
They have, sitting 3rd at this moment. I don't think anybody thought they would come in to this Tour Series 2015 and be sitting at this position. There are other teams, right, of Raleigh, GAC, NFTO, yet to shine in the Tour Series.
And already Pedal Heaven then are having a crack, and it has been noticed throughout the previous rounds how well they look after each other, because of course it is the cumulative time of the 5 team members, and they do ride as a cluster.
They've looked